This video is about annual worth. So I have a series of videos that hopefully you've been keeping up with, and by now you should be really fluid with calculating different factors over time, whether it's present given future, future given annual, present given annual. So now we're going to use those skills to analyze different problems and phrase them in terms of cost per year. I mean, it could be cost per month, cost per quarter, cost per whatever, but for the most part we're going to look at AW, which is annual worth, or cost per year. That offers certain advantages. Sometimes people have a hard time understanding capitalized cost or visualizing, $10 million 8 years from now. But generally speaking, people can get quantity when you put it in terms of dollars per year. This is going to cost $100,000 per year. The other nice thing about annual worth is if you saw the previous video on comparing two different alternatives or more that have different life cycles, then it can be a real pain to compare them evenly using something like present worth analysis. But you can bypass, for instance, using least common multiples by analyzing alternatives using annual worth. The other nice thing is that annual worth is the same regardless of whether you analyze it one life cycle or multiple life cycles. That said, let's get into an example. So here we're going to look at a 3-year servicing contract, has an upfront cost and then an annual cost. So if we were to evaluate this, what's the annual equivalent? So if I were going to draw this out, it would have some kind of upfront cost, which would be period 0. In this example, we have a 3-year contract, so we're going to be converting from that into an even annual amount. So our solution is going to look something like this, right? 1, 2, 3. So we're converting to that. So basically, we're just going to find the annual of this upfront cost and then add it to this other cost, which is already annual. So this problem should be a piece of cake. So the annual in this case would be the upfront cost, which is 20K. I'm looking for A given P. It tells us 22%, and I'm going to spread that out over 3 years. Then I'm going to add in these costs here. That's going to be minus 8K, and that will be your equivalent annual cost. And this will be around $17,800. Now, what if you wanted to renew this contract? So we're going to renew this contract for another cycle. So we're going to repeat this over again. If we're going to repeat that over again, then here we renew it, and then we have 3 more years of contract. So now we're going out to period 6. So now the annual worth for 2 cycles, right? For 2 cycles is going to be the same as what we had before with the upfront cost, except now that upfront cost occurs in period 3, and that upfront cost occurs in period 6, right? So I'm just going to add that factor in here, which would be what? A given P, 22% for 6 periods, right? And that would include the 8K, that's the original, right? And it's going out from 0 to 6, but it doesn't matter because this is already, it does matter, but this is already for a 6-year. This one's for a 3-year period, this one would be for a 6-year period because it's annual already. Then you would find that is also around 17.8K. So then I could repeat this for as many cycles as I want, right? Just add in another cycle. I could add in another one here and just keep going. And it's always going to come out to this amount because this is AW is per year. Oops. All right, so now let's do a different example. If you've listened to all the videos and watched all the videos, you will catch on that I like music a lot. So let's say we're going to start a concert series, right? I'm going to start a business that puts on concerts. I need 13 million down to get started. So if I'm going to draw this out, period 0, I'm going to need 13 million just to get me started. Right, that'll allow me to buy all the stuff I need, and then I need around a little shy of $1 million per year. Right, so 0.9, my units are in millions per year, and then at the end of 8 years, right, so let's put a time break in here, year 7 and 8. In 8, I still have the 0.9 because I plan to run it to the end of the year. And then at the end of the year, I'm able to get some deposits back, so I get 0.5. So this 0.9 runs to year 8. So at a MAR of 12%, what do we need in cells per year? So this is representing all of our costs. So that's the money I'm going to put out. And if my MAR is 12%, right, I'm calculating these at 12%. So if I find the annual worth equivalent of these, then that's telling me how much I need to make in sales, right, at 12%. So that means I'll make 12% per year if I do this. So I'm going to find AW, and then I know that that AW is going to be my goal for sales, right? And if I hit those sales marks per year, then at the end of this time frame, you know, after all said and done, I will have made 12% a year. So how do we solve that? What do I need in sales? So I'm going to find AW. So AW is, so we have minus 13 million. I'm looking for A given P, 12% for 8 years. That's my upfront cost, right? So you could break this down into capital recovery if you wanted to. If I was going to do that, then I'd say plus 0.5 million, right? And this is A given F at 12%, right, in period 8. Now I just have to add in the costs per year, 0.9. Right, so then I find AW is around, more or less, 3.5 million. Of course, that would be per year. So my sales goal, I need to beat that. So as long as my sales are greater than or equal to, right? Actually, I put it the wrong way. As long as my sales are greater than or equal to that, then I'm going to make my 12%. Here's another example. Let's say we're looking at a 10-year investment, and we know that this 10-year investment costs $10,000 to get into, right? So 10K now, and we have to pay a yearly fee, which is $1,000, but it increases every year. So it starts off being $1,000, and then it increases every year. And it's 10 years, so this would be 1, 2, 3, whatever. And over here is 10. So the question is, how much do we need to make to get our MAR back? Right, so what's this going to cost us? And then, so let's evaluate the total cost here, which you could call capital recovery, right? And then add in the annual operating costs of this, right? Whether this is investment or whatever. And that should tell us, right, as long as what we get paid is greater than or equal to that, then we know we're going, if we evaluate this at 10%, then we're going to get our 10% or more. All right, so what is that amount? All right, the capital recovery portion of this is present worth, right? So we're going to convert that to annual. So we have minus 10K, A given P, 10%, spread over 10 years. We have no salvage value or anything like that. This is just the cost of this investment. So now all we have to do is add in, right, the annual operating costs. Now in this case they are not uniform, right? So you would recognize from previous videos that we have a gradient here, an arithmetic gradient, capital G. So in order to solve for that, we have annual operating costs equal what? So to solve that, what I'm going to do is cut $1,000 out of it. Right, 0, 1, 2, break, 10. All right. So here, we cut 1,000 out. If I do that, what am I left with? Well, in period 0, if I cut 1,000 out, I have 0 here. So you should have by now watched the gradient video, and this will be a piece of cake. So then in period 2, it's going to be $100. Right, period 3, it'll be 200. Put our time break in here, all the way down to period 10. So I'm going to draw my triangle here, right? And this would put me over here. So my AOC is going to be 1K, right? The 1K that I cut out of this. And then it's going to be the $100 gradient. I'm looking for A given G, 10%, going from period 0 to period 10. And that's it. So I love music so much, I decide I'm going to use $10,000 that I have to set up some kind of account that donates $2,000 a year to a charity for startup musicians. I have 10K now. When can I start this donation process? Right, can I start it now? Can I start it 20 years from now? Can I start it 5 years from now? And how do we know? So let's draw what I want, right? So let's draw the goal. So the goal is that I donate 2K every year. And that just keeps on going. So from previous, you should have learned that when n is much, much greater than 1, then we're looking at a equals pi, right? In this case, this is the a I want to give, right? And this would be the account that I have set up, right, with some amount wherein I'm going to make 8%, right, per year. This is years. So what is this? Right? So if we were going to solve for that, it would look like 2K divided by 0.08. So that's $25,000. That's a K. So that's $25,000. Here's me now, and I have 10K. So I do not have enough money to start this off. Right, so then the next question is, since I don't have enough money, then how long is it going to take before I do? Right? So if I was going to draw that out, it would be, here's me with my 10K. That's me. In period 0, right? So period 1 to somewhere over here in time frame X, right? I'm going to have 25K. I'm writing well today. So that's 25K. After that, in year X plus 1, I can donate my first 2K. And then the next year, I can donate another 2K. And then I can just keep on donating after that. Right, so the question is this, right? When is X? So I'm going to look for n equals what? N X equals what? Right? So how do we figure that part out? Well, I know that in the future, I want 25K. Right now, in the present, I have 10K. So I'm looking for F given P at 8% for sum in X, right? So that means this factor right here is equal to 2.5, right? Because then you get the 25K you want. 10 times 2.5, 25K. So I can either solve this using the equation, which would be 1 plus I to the nth, right? And just solve for n. Or I can look in the 8% table. Let's say we decide to do that. So, percent. So I'm looking at the 8% table F given P. I'm looking for 2.5. At 11 years, it's 2.33. At 12 years, it's 2.51. So by the 12th year, right, I'm going to be able to do this. So from that, I find that nx equals 12 years. So I can take my 10K, and in 12 years, I'll have over 25K, right? And then from that, I can start these 2K donations to my favorite charity. As mentioned at the beginning, one of the advantages of annual worth is that you can compare alternatives with different life cycles more quickly and easily. Because, for instance, if we were going to do this one using present worth, as you'd learned in previous videos, then a fair way to do that would be with the least common multiples. Now, the least common multiple here, we're talking 12, which isn't so bad because I only have to do this one twice, but I'd have to do this one 3 times. And that's still a lot more work than just doing it with annual. Because, as mentioned, a cycle for annual, and one cycle is going to be the same annual worth as for 2 cycles, as for 3, as for 4. So that relieves us of this LCM duty that we would have to do for present worth. So now all I have to do is look at the annual worth equivalent and choose whichever is better, whether it's more positive or least negative, right? It's either going to make us the most money or cost us the least money as we optimize our solutions. So we have 2 pieces of equipment, uniquely named X and Y. Each has a first cost, annual operating cost, a life, a salvage value, and an estimated value after 3 years. So let's analyze these with first looking at the full life cycle, and then second looking at just a 3-year time frame, since it gives us its estimated value at 3 years. So that means we could sell this for this salvage value instead for only 3 years. So if we were going to look at the life cycle, then what? Then it would be AW, take the first one, right, is minus 40K, the upfront cost, A given P, right? And let's put an evaluation percentage in there. So we're going to go with I equals 12%. So I equals 12% for 4 years. Now you have annual operating costs, already annual, so that's pretty easy. It's just minus 25K. Now we get our salvage. We get our salvage value back in 4 years. So we have plus 10K. Make that K there. AF 12% for 4 years. As in 4 years from now. Now the life cycle costs for the second one are going to be the same structurally, right? You have the upfront cost, which was 75K, A given P, 12%, and that would not be for 4 years because it's good for 6. So you have 6 years. Then you have the annual costs, which is only 15K, so it's more expensive up front, cheaper to run per year. And then you have 7K. So you have plus 7K, A given F, 12%, 6 years. This one, so AWX. So then we have AWX equals minus 36.1 more or less K. And then you have AWY, which is equal to minus 32.4 K. So we would choose the least negative one in that case, which would be Y. Now it gives us in this table a 3-year salvage value. And it's going to have us analyze that. We would recognize that this is going to be replaced by 3 years, right? So that wouldn't give this cheaper annual operating cost as much time to benefit us. So this one is cheaper than this one, right? So per year, this one's eventually going to be better. But if we go with only 3-year estimate, then we're going to have AWX. Same thing, 40K, A given P, 12% for 3 years this time, and then minus 25K. Then you use the value that it gave us, which is 14K this time, for the salvage value, right? And that occurs in 3 years. And then AWY is minus 75K, so it's more expensive up front, and now it's not going to have as much time to catch up to its alternative because it's more expensive and it runs less, right, per year, but now we only have 3 years to evaluate that at 15K. Then our salvage value would be 20K. A given F, 12%, 3. If we were to tabulate that up, now we would find this is minus 37.5, and this is minus 40.3. And now, because of that shorter time frame, we would choose X. So if we were only going to use this piece of equipment for 3 years, right, or we were going to sell our business in 3 years, or something that dictates to us or makes more sense to us that we use a 3-year span, then we prefer to buy the cheaper piece of equipment. On the other hand, if we were going to buy this equipment and use it for however long it's good for, right? So I'm going to own my business indefinitely, or I'm going to use this piece of equipment for however long it's good for, then I'm going to choose Y, right? So that's why you would evaluate it at 2 different time frames potentially, depending on your situation.